Hello, we're Anna from Finland, Katja from Finland, Thomas from Czech Republic, Barbara from Slovakia, and Rangwan from China. And this is our cross-culture management group presentation. The outline of the presentation will go as follows. At first, we're shortly going through the movie plot, and then we will analyze more carefully each one of the cultures brought up in the movie. In our analysis, we will use Hofstede dimensions and discuss the business aspect of each culture. We will also define the meaning of the movie and then continue to the part where we will discuss the cultures of our group members. We will estimate our working in the group and discuss potential risks and outcomes of our inputs. And lastly, we will end our presentation with the conclusion.
Meet Claude and Marie Vernet and their four lovely daughters, Isabelle, Odile, Ségolène, and Laure. A typical French family with conservative parents, but they are not so typical after all. Their first daughter married Rachid, Algerian lawyer. Odile married David, Jewish wannabe entrepreneur, and Ségolène married Chinese banker. It is clear that Claude and Marie are not amused by their new sons-in-law, but they still have hope. Their last daughter, Laure, can still marry a typical French Catholic guy. However, their hopes are destroyed when Laure brings home indeed Catholic, but black man Charles. However, Charles' family from Ivory Coast, especially his father, is not so happy because the father is just as prejudiced against the French culture as Claude is prejudiced against all the other non-European cultures. Conflicts resulting in ethnical and religious differences of the son-in-laws are dramatically present in the family's everyday interaction. Towards the end of the movie, after numerous collisions, the characters finally evolve their acceptance for one another.
The main characters of the movie are a wealthy French Catholic family. According to Hofstede's cultural dimensions, French culture can be described as having high power distance and high uncertainty avoidance, seen in the movie by the parents feeling threatened by unfamiliar cultures and habits of their son-in-laws. Other characteristics of French culture is individualism and femininity, with the latter showing up in the movie through the development in attitude of parents, with final acceptance of all son-in-laws surrounded by sympathy and caring feelings. The type of French high work ethics and appreciation of education and wealthy lifestyle is seen in the parents' big beautiful house and valued professions of their daughters and husbands, with such professions as dentist, lawyer, artist, legal service worker, and banker. Importance of family and food is highlighted in the movie as family gathers several times around the table. To have dinner and spend time together. The prejudiced attitude of French people towards other cultures is highly present in the movie. One of the best descriptive scenes is when a French man is visiting the parents and the son-in-laws are sitting outside. The French man sees them through the window and asks the parents, "Who are these people there? Are they your gardeners?" The man's line emphasizes how he systematically assumes that foreign people are servants of the French family. The stereotype of French people's shallowness and caring about own looks and what others think of them is seen in the movie by the parents being embarrassed to introduce their multicultural son-in-laws to their friends. Religious pressure set by the Catholic society in their expectation for all the Catholic daughters to marry a Catholic man. The religious pressure is strong and it directs the behavior of the French parents. Based on the film, there is some guidance on what to expect when doing business with French people. It can be expected that French people might first be cautious towards foreign cultures. They need to be given time to get to know you and your culture, after which the building of trust will take place. In the film, discussing financial conditions was important to the French father, which implicates that in business negotiations, financial matters are of high interest to French. Hofstede's cultural dimension suggests France is a high power distance country, meaning that when managing French people, the subordinates expect the decisions to be made by the manager. In addition, dressing up appropriately should also not be overlooked, as French people judge you by the looks.
The husband of the first daughter, Rachid, is from Algeria, and he is a lawyer. According to Hofstede's cultural dimensions, Algerian culture has some similarities with French culture, which originate from the fact that it was once a French colony. We can find these similarities in power distance and uncertainty avoidance. Their low long-term dimensions suggest that traditions in Algerian culture are honored and kept, while steadfastness is valued. Their low indulgence is in line with their religious beliefs because society controls gratification of needs and regulates it by means of strict social norms. Another common trait with the French people is their family orientation and generosity, mainly represented through dining with them. During the movie, we can see a lot of stereotypes which are supposed to represent Arabic or Muslim nature. 99% of the Algerians people are of Muslim religion. The main stereotypes and discussions about Muslims in today's society concentrate on immigration, terrorism, burqas and crimes. All of those were mentioned in the movie, usually by some member of Rashid's family-in-law. However, Rashid is fighting some of these stereotypes by being a lawyer and providing well for his family. But he is easily saying anything bad or unpleasant about his culture and ready to defend his culture at any point and with all the resources that he have, as he perceives not defending himself and his culture as cowardice. When doing business with Algerian people, appointments should be made far in advance and confirmed before the meeting. Being on time for a meeting is very important as well, as building a personal relationship with your business partner. Investing in building trust and rapport always pays back, and preserving honor or reputation is essential. Within Algeria, the "you scratch my back and I scratch yours" mentality works, so trying to do favors for people will mean that they owe you one back.
Jewish culture. As a standard for Jewish country, we chose Israel. According to Hofstede's cultural dimensions, Israel is taken as very low in power distance dimension, almost equal in individualism and masculinity dimension, very high uncertainty avoidance dimension, and quite low in long-term orientation. Data for indulgence dimensions are unfortunately not available. In the movie is the ceremony of circumcision. Claude and Marie are not happy about this traditional Jewish ceremony, and they are surprised even more when the foreskin in a little box is offered to them as an expression of respect and honor. Top of the jokes come when Claude is trying to dig a hole for the foreskin on the garden, but the foreskin gets out from the box and the prison dog eats it. Next stereotype is connected with eating habits for Jews. Kosher. With eating habits basically starts the first fight in a family break, and obviously when the second big meeting, Mary prepares a traditional recipe for everyone. Last mentioned stereotype is profession one. Namely, Jews are good merchants and dentists. Most hilarious thing is that meanwhile David's wife is a great dentist, he is not really good merchant, and everybody is very well of this idea. What can we take from the movie about the business culture of Jews? The movie highlights and teaches over mentioned stereotypes that Jews are usually wealthy, hardworking, and always trying to get the best out of every situation. Obviously, the biggest joke is that David is exactly opposite of those. Chinese culture. For Hofstede culture dimension part, we can see that China has very high power distance and above the average masculinity dimension. Next we can see that individualism, uncertainty avoidance and indulgence dimensions are very low. From the movie we perceived some characteristics of the Chinese culture. Chinese character is a funny flatter. Most of Chinese people don't have specific religion and they are open to experience different religion activities. Chow is always the trigger of the religious arguments. Due to Chinese one-child policy, the relationship of families are bounded closely and family is the number one priority. Chinese restaurants are afraid of the sanitary supervision because the Chinese restaurant needs to spend time and money to prevent their kitchen from heavy oil and smoke. In addition, we realize some points of Chinese business culture. In business life, the senior should receive respect from the subordinates, and position hierarchy is considered seriously. Companies are quite conservative in long-term plans to avoid any possible risk, and gender inequality still exists in companies where women do not always get a fair respect and equal treatment as a man. In addition, it's a sensitive topic when you talk about religion and police/government together. Freedom to speech is not fully open yet.
According to Hofstede, West Africa has large power distance, weak uncertainty avoidance, and low individualism. These factors may be seen in the movie as the Kofis are extremely family-oriented and consider Andre, the father, to be in charge. Even when Andre acts unreasonably, the rest of the family hardly protests his power or dissents to the father's will and tries not to unbalance the dynamics of their family. Whereas Claude and Andre stubbornly hold on to their own opinions and find it hard to tolerate each other, the mothers, Marie and Madeleine, find rather quickly a common ground and start to get along quite well. This refers to the feminine side of the West African culture, in which relationships are cherished and caring for the close ones is a virtue. Some of the stereotypes about African culture are, for example, that the Africans are kind of racism. When Charles meets Laura's parents for the first time, they are clearly disappointed that he is black. However, Charles is not offended by the rude reaction, but seems rather used to the unflattering approach. Another stereotype concerns African sexual culture. When Charles is escorting his sister, misinterpret the situation and think he is cheating on his fiancée with another woman. They claim that for an African man it is nearly impossible to be monogamous because in Africa polygamy flourishes. Lastly, one scene of the movie refers to the generalization of that all Africans have huge families, as Andre exaggerates that there will be about 500 guests coming from their side of the family to the wedding. The movie also refers to the low level of education and standard of living in Africa when Andre sarcastically stay in clay huts like all the people in Africa. What we have learned from African culture is that it has strong sense of communalism, which affects also the business environment in a way that there is no competition among the employees or incentive system for individual performance. When interacting in the business environment, we should bear in mind that the Africans hold a strong sense of leadership, consider the managers to be on a higher level of the hierarchy, and do not expect their subordinates to be involved in decision making. In addition, propensity for collectivism should be noticed in a way that teamwork should be preferred over individual contribution.
The main meaning of the movie is that we should not live according to the classical stereotypes, which sooner or later create tunnel vision for our lives. The film illustrates how narrow-mindedness and bias lead to conflicts and misunderstanding. The main message of the movie is that despite all personal or cultural differences and stereotypes, which everyone knows, there is still possibility to create a healthy and rich multicultural environment. We compared the different cultures in our team through the Hofstede's cultural dimensions. The table summarizes the main characteristics of each culture. There are both differences and similarities found, but no dimension is, however, completely same for all of our cultures. The comparison points out that Finnish and Chinese cultures are complete opposites, which could imply possible difficulties in cooperation. On the other hand, Czech and Slovakian cultures share mostly similar dimensions, so assumption could be that collaboration between these cultures should not create any significant problems. One of the risks that could have disturbed our group dynamics is differences in our perception of the movie. Other of the risks that could have occurred are, for example, conflicting working styles and interaction issues. Our team by discussing and planning well how to conduct the given assignment beforehand. Since everyone participated equally and gave their input to the work, there were no trust issues. Nor was there a disrespectful attitude, as everyone paid attention to others' opinions and considered this as a great opportunity to learn more about cultures and interaction in a multicultural environment.